Are you sick of waking up with anxiety and regret after drinking? I get it. I was a weekend binge drinker, fooling myself into believing I was detoxing all week, only to retox every weekend and live completely outside of alignment with my values. As a former personal trainer who cared about health, that disconnect pushed me to finally make a change. I'm Maureen Bankovich, and this is Sober Fit Life, a podcast where we get real about alcohol, share powerful stories, and learn from wellness experts so you can thrive physically, mentally, and emotionally. Let's get sober fit. Have you ever Googled, "Am I an alcoholic?" Me too. And here's the thing, it's not a helpful question. Those quizzes just slap on a label. Yes, you are. No, you're not. But what if it's not about the label and more about how drinking actually makes you feel? That's why I created Am I Drinking Too Much? It's the quiz I wish had existed when I was searching. No scare tactics, no rock bottom required. You'll get your results and a free guide that explains gray area drinking, plus 3 science-backed strategies to reduce or interrupt cravings. Take it at soberfitchick.com/MI. That's MI, as in, am I drinking too much? soberfitchick.com/MI. Imagine unlocking profound healing simply by harnessing the power of your own breath. So instead of reaching for that drink to relax or de-stress, we're going to talk about breathwork techniques today with my really special guest, Trish Brewer. She is a certified trauma-informed breathwork coach and Reiki master teacher, and so much more, who offers empowering alternatives. Through her guidance, individuals learn to release trauma, reduce stress, and reconnect with their authentic selves. Trish is also co-author of several books. One of them is We Lead, Volume 2, where she talks about the power of the pause. So we'll get into that. And today, she'll share insights on how conscious breathing can promote relaxation and healing, offering healthier alternatives to alcohol use. So welcome, Trish. I'm so glad you could come on my podcast and share all your wisdom and insight with everybody who's interested in these breathwork techniques to help regulate their central nervous system. And I'd love to ask you, how you got into that and a little bit about your own personal journey.
Great. Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity to talk about it. So I don't often talk about my sobriety, which is interesting, but I am 2 years and now 2 months
Wonderful.
Into my sobriety, and it actually came about for a health reason, health journey. Turns out I just kind of knew, like, I shouldn't drink anymore. I tried to have a drink one time at my little cousin's wedding, and I took one sip and I put it down, like at the toast. And I wasn't a huge drinker to begin with, but I do come from a family where drinking is very prominent.
Right.
But yeah, I had a sip and I was like, nope, this isn't going down right. So I just kind of had a feeling that was the last sip I was going to take, and it was.
But how long was that journey? How long did you keep trying to drink?
That was December of 2023. Was it 2023 or 2022? And then by that January, no, I didn't try again. That January, I had some blood work done that showed that there was some liver enzyme issues that were coming from some medication I was taking.
I see.
And so worked with our friend, Dr. Kinney, and got some things straightened out. But that was a process.
It is a process. But so you really decided to stop drinking for your health?
I did. But there were some things leading up to that point. I had been in an Al-Anon program since 2020. So like I mentioned before, I had some family members that, alcohol had been very prominent in my family, immediate family and extended family. So lots of alcoholics. And I just saw how that, lots of drinking, I'll just say. It was very, whether it was casual or every day, I just saw how it affected our family and around us. So I just made a conscious choice to step away.
And it is a conscious choice. I love how
Mhm.
you use that terminology because it has to be your decision and conscious, right? Because
Yep.
if you've been drinking an addictive substance for a while, you have to teach yourself how not to do that and how to turn to other things such as breath work.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, breath work has been instrumental in finding in those moments where you are dysregulated and you do want to go for something that is of comfort,
Mhm.
um, to disassociate from that moment.
Yes.
How do you come back? Finding that pause, and to come back to your center. That is where I found breath work to help me find my center. And we'll talk about the different types of breath tools and techniques, but even getting to that point was was a journey to be able to get to that point, and then figuring out what tool do I need in that moment. But it does take, like we said, a conscious effort
Mhm.
to remember to take that pause in that moment.
Which is mindfulness, right? It's a lot of
Absolutely.
us are drinking mindlessly because, as you said, we grew up in it. We were surrounded by family members who did it. It's very accepted. Everyone's doing it, and I didn't realize I was drinking for stress and anxiety. It wasn't a conscious thing because I was mindlessly drinking. So being mindful, that does that have to come before the pause? Would you say?
I do think so.
Yeah,
Yeah, I do think so because you have to know what you have to be aware. So
awareness.
awareness is everything. But how do we get to that awareness?
Yeah. I talk about that a lot with my clients. I mean, the awareness is so important because, I only work with people who are aware and they're aware that "Ah, I think I'm drinking too much and it's not good for me in so many ways." So it has to be that person who has hit that level of awareness and then talking about how to be mindful and how to replace the substance you've been using, to de-stress or relax. So how did you find breath work?
I like to say it found me,
I like that.
as it did.
Uh-huh.
I was on a yoga meditation retreat festival, and it was an offering. I had no idea what I was signing up for. I had no clue. It was just one of those classes that a friend of that I was with, somebody we know actually, um, was with us, and she said, "I think you should go try this class out." I was like, "Okay, I'll go." And I like to say, it cracked me wide open and cracked my heart wide open.
Mm,
Uh, I will preface it by saying that there are different types of breath work, right? So this breath work that I did at this yoga meditation festival called Wanderlust in Stratton, Vermont,
mm,
is active breathwork healing. And this active breathwork healing is a much more holistic approach. It's a very sacred and spiritual practice. It's that activating type of breath practice that brings a physical sensations to shift our awareness away from the mind
okay.
and into the body, and it leads the body away, leads the where the body leads the way towards clarity, releasing stuck energy, and where we generally feel like less burdened. And it heals the body through the breath. These are So during that session, I like to say that it was probably the most release I felt. It was like the most release I felt in all 40 years of my life at that time.
Wow.
It was like 10 years of therapy in 40
Mhm.
minutes.
Mhm. So it was
And
really
I
eye-opening for you.
very much, very much. So these are techniques similar to holoanthropic breath work or rebirthing breath work, that all came into play in the 1970s when things like psychedelics were taken off the market to help with PTSD, right?
Mhm.
So these were developed during that time, but it was a similar to that type of breath work. So it was really, really moved a lot through the body, a lot.
Well, I think what's so incredible about it is we all have access to our breath. We
Yeah.
all can do this work, and I think we so underestimate this gift that we have that's innate, but just we need to learn how to harness it. So,
Yeah.
well, let's get into those different types of
Yeah.
breath work and various techniques, including the ones that regulate the central nervous system.
Yeah. So that one is not one that regulates the central nervous
Okay.
system. Instead, it activates
Yes, you said
our
activating.
sympathetic. It's very activating. It does help though, if anyone that is, I would say if people are going through recovery, that is really one that does also help with recovery because it um, does help relieve trauma that's been stored in the body. If anyone's ever read The Body Keeps the Score by
Yes.
Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, this is what we're talking. We're talking of somatic practice. This is what that is. So that's one, right?
So that's
And
activating. And
that's
when you say
activating
activating, do you mean energized or
energy. There's
focus?
there's a lot of energy that moves through the body. Energy physically moves through the body, but it's a very active breath work. The one that I use is 2 inhales and 1 exhale, and you are doing that breath like this. And you are repeating an inhale, inhale, exhale, and
Oh.
inhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, inhale, exhale. And you are actively breathing until it's time for rest. And we do this for a short period of time. And a short period of time is usually about 20, 30 minutes of actively
Yeah,
breathing.
that sounds like a lot to me at first. Yeah. Is
Yeah,
it,
but yeah, once you get into it, it's
yeah.
not.
What's the name of that particular?
So there are different types, as I
Mm,
mentioned. There's
okay.
holanthropic, there's rebirthing. The breath work that I teach doesn't have a trademarked name. I
Okay.
studied under multiple different practitioners, one being David Elliott, another one being Gwen Dittmar. So in teaching that same type of breath work, it's a 3-part breath. I call it regenerative breath work or active breath work healing.
Okay.
Um, so that is one. That activates the sympathetic nervous system. So the other category of breath work that we're talking about that regulates the nervous system, that's something that you should be doing every day. These are breath tools. These are techniques that regulate that nervous system. They help us get grounded and clear. And
Mm,
things like box breath, alternate nostril breathing, 4-7-8, even Wim Hof and breath of fire fall into these regulatory breath techniques, these breath tools or techniques and exercises that we can use every day that help regulate the nervous system. And they help to reduce stress, boost digestion, improve sleep, balance mood, energy, increase your mental focus. They can, because they slow the heart rate down and they promote relaxation, they help with anxiety and
mm-hmm.
depression, reducing that stress. Yeah, they activate the parasympathetic nervous system.
Right. But you have to obviously actively pause in the case of deciding between pouring a drink and sitting down. I think sitting down, you tell me, to do one of these breathwork techniques.
Yeah, yeah. Some of them can be done standing up, most of them sitting down.
Okay.
Yeah,
What,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, you talk about in your book, We Lead Volume 2, the power of the pause. So I would imagine that
Mm,
has to happen before you do a breathwork technique.
you do.
Yeah.
Yes, I would. You you do in that moment have to make a conscious choice
Choice.
to take that breath, right? Make a conscious choice to just breathe.
Mm-hmm.
Just breathe. Um, Whether it's a 4-4 breath or a 4-8 breath, just taking that deep, even if it's just an exhale. We can move through the day not even conscious about how we're breathing, right?
Yeah.
How we're breathing, whether we're doing that shallow breath or that deep breath, but just making a conscious choice to check in with yourself. So, what I coach people to do is if you're practicing 3 simple breath techniques a day, one
Okay.
in the morning, one in the afternoon, and one in the evening, what you're teaching your body is one, you're training yourself to check in with yourself at least 3 times a day. And then when something does come up, you'll know which one to like pull on, which technique, which tool to like use, because you'll have them automatically, like they're already in my toolbox.
Yep.
I'm using them and I know which one to pull from. So it makes it a little easier. But
Yeah,
you kind of,
I
yeah.
get that. And I'm familiar with, which I think a lot of people have heard of, like 4-7-8 breath, box breathing. And I remember having a conversation with you, and you're like, yeah, but that's, they're all applicable to different things. Like not everyone
Mm.
is what you would do for sleep or reducing anxiety. So what would be the 3 breathwork techniques, and what are each one of them good for? And what time of day would you do them?
Sure. So I start everyone
My,
basically.
sorry, hold on a minute. We're going to edit this part out.
Okay.
My dog is like whining. Get up there. All right.
That's okay.
So yeah, what would be
Eh,
the 3 techniques?
So when I work with someone, I start at the basics, very basic. So the first technique I teach everyone is a simple 4-4 breath. Let's regulate the nervous system. Let's balance it. Whenever we have equal inhales and equal exhales, you're balancing the nervous system.
Hmm.
So it's as simple as inhaling through the nose. We want to inhale and exhale through the nose. So we inhale for 4, we exhale for 4. Inhale for 4, exhale for 4. Making sure that on the inhale that the belly is expanding, and on the exhale it's contracting back towards the spine, because you want that deep diaphragmatic breath, because
Mm-hmm.
that is activating the vagus nerve, and that's what's going to regulate the parasympathetic nervous system, because that vagus nerve calms the body, right? Because it's running through the lungs, it's running through the digestive system, it's running. So basically, that vagus nerve controls the heart, the lungs, the digestive tract, because it runs through an opening of the diaphragm. So it's really important
Mm.
to take those expansive breaths through the diaphragm.
Yeah,
Right?
I'm so
We
glad you explained the importance of the vagus nerve, because that's, I think, relatively new in the last 10 years that people are understanding how important this is. Vagal
Yeah,
tone.
vagal toning, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the same thing, like that, the breath, breathing, chanting, singing, that's all vagal toning. That all helps the relax our body, and activates the parasympathetic nervous system. So that's where I start. I always
Okay.
start with the basics. Let's pretend you don't know anything about breath work. Let's teach you how to balance equal inhales, equal exhales. And if 4 inhales and 4 exhales doesn't feel comfortable, then do 3-3. Just
Right.
start where you're comfortable. Then that is a really good one to do like middle of the day.
Okay.
Like if your energy is a little low, then it'll bring it back up. If it's a little high, it'll bring it back down. It just kind of balances it. Then in the evenings, you double the exhale. So before bed, right before bed, you might want to lay down, like in a supine position, or just lay in your bed, and you do the same. Inhale for 4, but exhale for 8.
Mm.
And when you exhale, when you double the exhale, you are activating that parasympathetic. You're activating the rest and digest.
And let's explain why that's important, the rest and digest, to be in that.
Because you can't digest anything. That's where you want to be when you're digesting your food. So what happens with the nervous system is, if you are in that fight and flight, then your blood leaves the digestive tract and goes to your extremities to either run or fight.
Mm-hmm.
Your pupils dilate so it can see far away, and so you won't be able to digest. The blood flow leaves the brain. So if you've ever gotten into an argument with someone and you're like, "Ah," later you go, oh, I wish I would have said that,
Yeah.
because you couldn't remember that in the moment. It's because your brain isn't functioning at full capacity,
Mm.
because the blood flow has left to go into your feet to run or your fists to fight. It's in that fight and flight mode. You need to be in that calm, loving state of the parasympathetic in order to sleep and digest your food. So that's where we want to be, right at those moments.
We want to be there, but our society and our culture is very much in the fight, flight, or freeze, which is the sympathetic, right? And
That,
we're not meant to be in that as long as we are.
that's right. I mean, we are. Look, the body moves from uh, sympathetic to parasympathetic every 120 minutes.
Hmm.
You're moving from one to the other, and we're supposed to move from one to the other. We're just not supposed to stay
Right.
there, right? We're not supposed to stay there. So it's not uncommon to fluctuate. I don't look at the sympathetic nervous system as a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
That it has its place,
Yeah.
and it's meant to protect us. It's meant to keep us safe. It's meant to, without it, we wouldn't get anything done.
Right.
It's the place of action. It's where we want to be in the morning, like to get us going. We just don't want to stay there all the time.
So is there a breath work technique for the morning?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
glad you asked. Yes, so something like a breath of fire is a really good one to do first thing in the morning.
Ooh, what's that?
So breath of fire activates the sympathetic nervous system, and it is basically it's hard to, let's see, it's you're exhaling, only exhaling. Um, and you are working with the abdomen, and you are not inhaling, not focused on the inhale. It's quick, fast-paced exhales. If you've done it yoga, a lot of
Yes, I
times
think I
yogis
have
do
in
this.
yoga. Yeah.
Yeah, you would just quickly exhaling. It's more like this. So you do these fast
Wow.
exhales, and you can do when if you're just starting out and you've never done a breath of fire, I would just do like 10, maybe 20 rounds of 3 just to get you going. First thing in the morning, feet over the bed, plant them on the ground, and just do a
Hmm.
quick 3 rounds of 20 or 3 rounds of 10, or you can set your timer for like 10 seconds, 20 seconds, and do 3 rounds. Lots of people do breath of fire. If you're a yogi, you might do them for, I don't know, I've seen people like do a round of 100. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I'm That's just not going to happen. And I'm a breathwork coach. I got to get going in the morning. So give me a quick one.
So these 3 techniques, morning, breath of fire, midday, 4-4, and then evening, inhale 4, exhale 8. These are the basics. And I can see why you
Basic.
need a coach, because I'm watching Trish do this and I'm like, okay, I got to ask her how to do that. You need some guidance.
You do. You do. Yeah. That's just my thoughts, just to get you started. And then you practice, right? And each day, I mean, each one is going to take you less than 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Set your timer
Yeah.
or set a reminder. And then once you get into a regular practice, you'll find that your nervous system starts to regulate, and then you'll know, like, hey, I don't know, I'm at a traffic light and somebody's bothering me, or I'm in the
Right.
car, and you get that like read, like you can like, oh, I just need to come back. Let me just take a few breaths here.
And you make such a good point. You can do it anywhere.
You can.
It's
Yeah,
portable. You got it right in you.
that's right.
But let's
That's
talk
right.
specifically about, because when I work with people and they're taking a structured break with me, I want to help them regulate their central nervous system while they're not drinking. But the habit that's ingrained, etched in their neural pathways, is to reach for the drink, especially like transition time when they're coming home, or how do they transit from, putting the kids to bed, and then they feel it's like their time, and the wine, what is usually wine, is the go-to. For me, I drank for social anxiety when I was out. I used that to sort of hide behind and hide my anxiety. So how would you share, what breathwork techniques could you recommend for those scenarios?
For the like anxiety
Yeah, let's start with anxiety. A
specifically,
lot of people drink for social anxiety when they're out.
when they're out. So
Mm-hmm.
I like the 4-7-8 breath for anxiety and for panic attacks. I think that helps because that pause at the top. So you're going to do the same thing. Inhale for 4 through the nose. Then you pause. You hold that last inhale at the top for 7. So you inhale for 4, you hold for 7, and then you exhale for 8. And you can exhale through the nose or through the mouth. It's going to be a personal choice. Um, that pause, what those pauses do is it starts to build the CO2.
Yeah.
And what we forget is we that CO2 is just as important in our breath practice as oxygen. We get plenty of oxygen. Okay, we breathe, we get oxygen, that's coming in naturally. The importance of CO2 is undervalued or
Mm-hmm.
unrecognized,
Yeah,
I
I did
think.
not know that it's
Yeah,
as important.
as important, because you would not be able, you need CO2 to actually deliver oxygen through the blood. It acts as a vasodilator and a bronchial dilator, and without the CO2, it wouldn't deliver the oxygen through the blood. So it starts to build the CO2 tolerance, and CO2 tolerance is also important in keeping us calm. It's actually what athletes do. They learn to manipulate their CO2.
Interesting. Yeah. And so if someone was, I'm thinking of myself when I was drinking, I would tend to drink a drink or two before I went out. And so instead, if they were taking a conscious, mindful break from alcohol, this 478 would be a good thing to do
Yep.
before going out. And I often tell people too, you can walk into the bathroom and do it if you're feeling it rise up in the
Oh yeah.
social situation.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I mean, sometimes I would have to to do it in those moments, in family, even those family situations that I would mention. I would have to walk away
Yes.
and
Pause.
do that, and I'm paused, and I
Mm-hmm.
would go right to the bathroom. And that's where I would go and do my own, and it would help me recenter and come back to me, so I wouldn't get lost in whatever shit was going down. Excuse my
That's
French.
okay.
Whatever's going down in the family dynamics,
Yeah.
right? And come
Because
back
we
to
can let
center.
those things, we lose ourself, and that's when we want to numb. So we don't want to feel that discomfort. So this is excellent. So what about the person who, this is how they transist? They're coming home from work and they start getting that dopamine hit as they're driving home. The motivation reward chemical neurotransmitter, because they've
Mm.
been drinking this way for so long that the brain goes, okay, remember we're driving home. So you're going to go home, you're going to pour that wine. You already start getting that dopamine hit.
Mm. Um, they might want to, I mean, it's something to try, something like a Wim Hof, which is going to be a little more activating. That might be a breath technique
Okay.
that would be helpful, because they're already looking for that dopamine hit, and that could help. A Wim Hof could help. Um, that's the first one that comes to mind.
And then
Um,
they're looking to relax. And the thing about alcohol is it's fast. It's a central nervous system depressant. It works, or none of us would do it, right? But the short-term gain of 20 minutes of relaxation has such a backlash. But so it's learning how to come home and not open the cabinet, pour the wine. Instead, what would you recommend?
a box breath,
Okay.
because the box breath, what it does is two different things. The box breath will regulate the nervous system, and it all and calms us, but it's equal inhales, equal exhales, but you're holding, you're pausing at the top. So you're inhaling, you hold, you exhale, you hold, you inhale, you see. So you're holding in between.
And you're sort of drawing a box with your,
I
so in
am.
my brain, I'm seeing this. I'm also feeling myself
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
But
You're
yeah.
inhaling, you hold, you exhale, you hold,
Okay.
you inhale, you hold. So at the same time that you're balancing, it's like you're focused and you're getting calm and centered at the same time. So Navy SEALs do this
Mm.
to, one, keep themselves calm and to focus on whatever task they have at hand. It's a great one before you walk on stage,
Mm-hmm.
before you speak, before you do a presentation. So if you are trying to focus on not doing one thing and just focus on yourself, that's a really good one to do.
Yeah. The Navy SEALs, they definitely need to be calm and focused. So that's an incredible validation of box breath, that it works.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It was created by them too.
That is so interesting that there are so many varieties. And I'm sure we're just scratching the surface
Yeah.
of breath work. So how do you work with people? What happens?
So there's several ways I work with individuals. I work with them one on one in breath coaching, breath active breathwork healing. I also work in circles. So I hold active breathwork healing circles in Southern Maryland and in Annapolis, and those circles where we do that active breathwork healing. Um, and I also work one-on-one, either coaching in these techniques or holding like a one-on-one breathwork
Mm-hmm.
sessions with them. Um,
Can
I'm
you do
also,
virtual with somebody?
we can do
Yeah.
virtual. Yep.
Yeah, I just want
Yep.
the audience to hear that, so that they know
Yeah.
that they could reach out to you, and because
Yep.
I'm watching you and I'm learning as I watch you
Yep.
virtually, so this is very helpful. I
Yep.
also noticed you have retreats. Um,
Yep.
yeah, I think you have one coming up soon, but maybe you could
I
tell us
do.
about that, and maybe the next one, because by the time this airs, I think this one will be over. So,
Yeah. April. Well, yeah, I have one with Sarah, Dr. Sarah Polmay,
yeah,
um,
we had her
in
on the
April.
podcast too. Yeah.
Yeah, well, she's the one I was with
Okay.
with breathwork.
Okay.
She and I have been friends for a very long time. So yeah, so I do retreats with Sarah, and I've been doing retreats. I've done a few. This will be our second one that's coming up, and we most likely will have another one in the fall. That's not planned yet, but we do an annual one in April at Casa Om in West Virginia, Martinsburg,
Mm.
West Virginia, where we have
April.
restored
What's the date? Maybe I'll get this out
April,
before.
April 25th through the 27th.
Okay.
So we'll be doing restorative yoga, active breathwork healing, Reiki meditation, a cacao and fire ceremony, um, vision boarding, sound
Ah, sounds
healing.
great.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun
That's
weekend.
when you
And then
don't need a
hiking.
vacation from your vacation. You come back from
That's right.
something like that really restored and refreshed.
Yeah. It's called Rising Woman Retreat.
Rising woman. So we'll have that in the show notes for people
Mhm.
can look it up. And
Yeah.
then how do people reach you if
Yeah.
they want to hear more about what your work and work with you?
Yeah, so you can reach me at trishbrewer.com. I actually also have a breathwork training coming up. So I'll be training with one of my teachers is coming in from California, and we're doing a breathwork training in April as well.
So you
It
teach
starts in
other people
April.
how to teach breath work.
Yeah, it'll be the first time I'm teaching other people. Yeah,
Oh, I think that's so valuable to keep spreading this and letting people
absolutely.
understand they have this power. Just starting to understand the last few years since not drinking that, I've had this all along and I haven't been using it. So I just so appreciate the work that you do. And I love to ask people, Trish, this question. What do you do to feel sober fit, whether it's mentally, physically, or emotionally? What works for you?
Well, obviously, breath,
Mm-hmm.
coming back to my breath. Journaling
Yes.
is huge for me. So writing, I love to write, and I love to write poetry. So that has been my way to express my journey. Um, Meditation, um, walking, and my dog.
Oh, yeah. You're hitting all the boxes. I love all of that. Yeah.
Mhm.
And that meditation, journaling is so important, and the breath work for sitting in stillness, which we don't do enough of.
Yeah,
So I love your work. It's really important. Thank you so much for coming on here. And everybody can look in the show notes for how to reach Trish Brewer and check out her retreats and her workshops and give her a call.
thank you.
Thanks for
Thanks for
coming on,
having me.
Trish. Have you ever Googled, am I an alcoholic? Me too. And here's the thing, it's not a helpful question. Those quizzes just slap on a label. Yes, you are. No, you're not. But what if it's not about the label and more about how drinking actually makes you feel? That's why I created Am I Drinking Too Much? It's the quiz I wish had existed when I was searching. No scare tactics, no rock bottom required. You'll get your results and a free guide that explains gray area drinking, plus 3 science-backed strategies to reduce or interrupt cravings. Take it at soberfitchick.com/MI. That's MI, as in, am I drinking too much? Soberfitchick.com/MI.